Hello, and welcome back. Okay. I cannot believe how perfectly this story is unfolding alongside my sort of theory crafting. So I decided, like, right at the end of the last episode, I had to just continue. So Edith, definitely not 16 years old, revisiting home. She must have gone through this experience and discovered all of these things. And, you know, every storyline from Molly's to Barbara's to Calvin's to Walter's and throughout all these other ones, but especially Edith's, gets more and more context and understanding. And at the same time, because it's taking so many generations to sort of unpack these narratives, the person that we are has never been more distant than some of these figures. You know, Dawn may actually have had more close relationships with some of these other people in the family tree. Edith even less so, especially with how protective Mom was, and whoever's Edith's child is, she probably only knows Edith. And so while she is able to get some familiarity from this experience, and perhaps going through the house is the only way to get that familiarity, yeah, every generation is going to have less and less access and ability to do this, because nothing that's here will last forever either. It's just really interesting, some of the implications of that. How much recording history matters, but how imperfect the recording always will be because of who's telling it and what resources they had to tell it as well. Okay.
I never met Grandpa Sam, but I think he and my mom had a lot in common.
So Sam was, yeah, one generation prior. Okay.
They were both pretty intense. Sam spent his life shooting photos, but Mom said he got nervous being in front of the camera. I guess we're all afraid of something.
Another thing that makes me go, Oh, this was Calvin's brother. So we're not in his childhood bedroom anymore, but we're seeing him as who he became. I'm going to look around a little bit before I check out the letter.
Instead of hiding from death, Sam seemed to go out of his way to meet it.
And who is Kay? Kay is on here, but doesn't have a date. Kay, Sven, and Sanjay. Or Sanjay. It's kind of curious. I wonder why. Airline ticket. Kay Finch. Possibly these were like, I guess people outside the family tree, like Sam's wife, Kay. Maybe Sanjay was like Dawn's husband. Sven and Edie, Odin, Ingeborg. Yeah, maybe these are people who sort of like were brought into the family. But where did she go? Because this looks like she left. I just love how much the story like leaves these breadcrumbs in the like user interface, in the it's very like just single words that it's saying are just like having my brain go like, wait a second. The fact that she said that word makes me think like this whole thing occurred. And then like several times it's been the case. Like one of the first lines of the game was like, yeah, tipping me off that there was some kind of neglect, and obviously all this buildup with the cemetery was really hinting at Edith being older than we first assumed. Not that it ever told us that. I think it just was banking very correctly on being uninitiated to what the story would be. The first scene, you don't realize that you're reading Edith Finch's notebook. It's sort of like subtly suggested to you that because of the way she's talking about, I went to the house and rediscovered it, and that's what we're doing, that you must be her. Got it, so good. This is actually fucking peak. Peak story.
Dawn, I promise, you'll never forget this weekend.
Yes, sir.
These memories are gonna last a lifetime.
Hmm? What? Am I gonna have to shoot anything?
It's a hunting trip, Dawn. Shooting is strongly encouraged. Perfect.
It's gonna rain the whole weekend, isn't it?
Oh, this is great. What? Like, effective storytelling. Getting us to these different locations by way of, like, sort of diegetic game mechanics.
This weekend, Dad.
That's the spirit. Okay, got it.
This is brilliant.
I'm gonna take some pictures, okay?
Just be careful. The camera's older than you are.
And what a nice glimpse into, like, who was Dawn as a child before she developed her
Right,
own
Dad,
fears.
you're up. Still freezing, though.
Ooh, bird.
Aw.
So really, Dawn was also just a child at some point too. I mean, obviously, but what that's communicating to me is that it must have really been when she had Edith that
should not have drunk all that coffee.
Hold still while I take a picture of you.
I definitely won't be moving.
Are you done yet?
Hey!
That's a keeper.
that she
I like being outside. I'm just saying, I'm not always gonna be here, Dawn. You'll need to remember this stuff, if you want to survive.
I'll be fine, Dad.
You know who else thought he was gonna be fine?
Some guy who died.
Dawn, I'm being serious.
I know, Dad. You're always serious. Doesn't being out here make you want to chill out?
Well, to tell you the truth, I haven't been out here in 20 years.
you know, that she wasn't always how we've been suggested, like constantly living in fear.
Calvin. Man, that was a great trip.
You know, she also...
Your grandpa Sven taught us how to fish, how to build a fire. Dawn, don't you think you could find something more interesting to photograph?
The fact that she...
Old lot.
Sorry, I don't want to keep accidentally interrupting the game. But I don't want to lose my train of thought either. The fact that she keeps photographing her dad as well instead of the nature, like, it's so heartbreaking. Yeah, it's clear that she also was just like a normal kid who understood that she wanted to play and explore things and, wasn't so saturated with ideas of death and dying. It really must have been getting older, having her own kids, and really fearing what felt like that she would inevitably lose them. And the fact that this seems to have driven Edith away, because it must not have been easy to communicate the why of those things and marry those ideas with, I'm doing this to protect you. What a challenging parenting dynamic. Ah, God. It's clear she so very dearly cared about her family and especially her kids, but yeah, it had an immense cost.
Trail. There were deer everywhere. I bet if I could remember where that trail was, we'd spot a buck for you in no time. Give me a minute to check the map.
Even the game's going,
Dad!
Good eyes, Dawn. Before you take the shot, let me get a picture of it.
Dad,
Oh.
I...
Just breathe. Turn off your imagination. Focus on your target. Let me get behind you.
Do I have to do this?
Dawn, you don't have to do anything. But if you want to survive, you'll need to be strong. Great shot, Dawn!
Oh my God. Brutal. Strange selfie.
I'm proud of you, Dawn. Always remember that, okay?
But look how clearly death affects her, Oh my God.
Sorry, Dawn. Just gotta reset the timer.
Oh, there's a timer.
Dad, it's twitching. I think
That's
it's
totally
so...
normal, Dawn. Just focus on the camera. Try not to think about...
Dad!
Oh my God.
Of all these stories, that's the one I wish most that my mom had told me.
Wow. There was probably an opportunity for the consoling wisdom of a father to explain, the natural cycle of life and death and the importance of survival and all of those things. But what I just saw was very likely the traumatic catalyst for Dawn to never develop a healthy integration of death, either in a natural sense or in what she can do to control it. Because the responsibility she must have felt. It's fucking tragic. It is adding more, to Edith's question of how much of this stuff is really a curse and how much of this was that we just wanted there to be a curse. We wanted there to be some kind of explanation, because if you go looking for a natural one, there doesn't seem to be a lot of meaning behind any of these. their tragedies, their accidents, their all unexpected and happening, just before what could have been beautiful moments. Walter stepping out into a life outside of isolation. Barbara potentially restarting her career. Molly, just getting to be a kid. Yeah, I wonder if that's just how you sort of make sense of something that doesn't really naturally have a lot of sense in it to begin with. God, it's just like one fucking gut punch after the next.
After Sam died, my mom and Edie got really close. They'd both lost a lot.
Baby Gregory. Whoa, divorce contract. No, pick it back up. wasn't quite done. But I wanted to sort of glance at it. Oh. Okay, it's really...
Dear Kay, do you remember the way Gregory used to laugh when he thought he was alone? Like something funny was happening, but only he could see it. I think he saw things the rest of us don't.
Oh my god, is something tragic gonna happen to this baby now? What? Oh my god.
Gregory, it's time to... Hold on, sweetie. Hello?
Oh, I'm controlling the frog.
I told you I don't want to talk right now.
I wonder what he saw. What his world was like.
It's very cute.
It reminded me so much of Calvin.
Oh.
Lost in his imagination. Whatever it was he saw.
Now this is gameplay.
Sure made him happy.
Oh.
I know how silly it sounds.
Uh-oh. That's not supposed to be in here, is it?
I'm worried about a baby being too happy. But I can feel him slipping away.
Sorry about that, Gregory.
I know you did everything you could. Maybe if I hadn't called that night,
Damn it. Hold on, I don't want Gregory to hear this.
Oh no.
I wish he could have told us about the world he saw. There's so much I don't understand about Gregory. About everything.
The trauma. Every single one of these stories has like, yeah, the fear of
You know what happened wasn't
being responsible.
I'm sure he's happy. And he'd want you to be happy too.
Jeez.
Good luck, Kay. Love, Sam.
Oh my God. Yeah, so many of them seem to have, there's like one step of responsibility mixed with a step of sort of tragic accident. With Calvin, it was Sam worrying that he'd sort of like left him alone or egged him on or something. With Barbara, you know, maybe that the family didn't protect her or something. Obviously with Molly, I think it's maybe suggested that maybe she didn't die of starvation, what I was thinking, but maybe she climbed out the window, you know, thinking she was a cat or in her escapism or something. I'm not really sure. With Walter, it was clearly an accident too. And with Dawn and Sam, very much an accident, but none of it would have been there if she hadn't shot the deer and all of the stuff, or the elk. It's like not that anyone, you know, deliberately killed anyone, but that burden of being witness to it comes with some fear of responsibility. If I hadn't called that night. And I'm thinking for Dawn, you know, worrying that locking her kids away like that might have caused, you know, some of them to leave or whatever happened to them. This is tragic, man. Good people afraid of something bad happening, and so doing things to prevent it but causing harm. That's just tragic.
I can't imagine my mom ever writing poetry, and yet...
Gus. So Gus must have been... These must have been siblings, Dawn, Gus, and Gregory. But they were young.
A poem for Gus, who always said the wedding was a bad idea. Our father never hit us kids, at least not very hard, before the day my brother said with teenage disregard that he'd be dead before he'd see a wedding in our yard.
This is so clever. I love this game. Wow.
My father made him come, of course, but Gus stood far apart, just flew his kite and bottled up the storm inside his heart. I tried to talk him out of it, but though he'd never met her, "We don't need a stepmom," were the words that
I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride.
Oh my god, something tragic happened at a fucking wedding.
photos came, Dad ordered him to
Come here.
But Gus declined, and as a sign held up his middle finger. The wind picked up, and panicked geese appeared and quickly went. But all the humans did that day was go inside the tent. The rain came down in buckets then, but no one seemed afraid that nature might destroy the tent our dad had crudely made. The thunder sounded much too close and full of angry power. But all my father said to this was, "Make the music louder."
Oh shit.
I wish that I could truly say I thought about you on that day. Out there on the beach alone, just you, the wind, the sea, and foam. But I didn't. Until we found you.
She wrote the poem on his, like, kite thing.
She never talked about him, but Mom told me once if I was a boy, they were going to name me Gus.
You can see, I think Dawn, maybe more than others, like, yeah, she experienced, like, so much of this. And, like, Molly, Barbara, Calvin, they were sort of slightly before her time, but still recent. She was born in 68. Calvin died in 61. Barbara in 60. Molly in 47. But she lost her father. She lost, presumably, mom and a stepmom. You know, if there was divorce, I think it was with Kay. So maybe that's the biological mom. But she experienced a divorce, lost both of her siblings. And, like, yeah, why is Edie the one who lasted so long? That's still a mystery to me. And I wonder what, like, everyone in the family sort of how they made sense of that. Oh, and because Dad was a military man, they had a lot of structure as well. Which must have infused Mom's understanding of a lot of things. Like, yeah, very strict. No messes after dark, all chores before dark. Emergency evacuation plan. So Mom had a lot of installation of fear and avoidant coping as well. God, the more you piece this together, the more, like, fucking tragic all of this is. It's so tragic. Goblins and ghouls. It's like glued shut. Okay. Can I climb this? Yes, I can.
My mom moved up to the loft after her brothers died. At the time, it was as far away as she could get.
So this was Dawn's way of escaping. Let's see, we've got her notebook there. Let's take a look at this.
Religion was another thing my mom never talked about, but I think it helped her a lot after her dad died.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a very common way of sort of like, even if you don't have something tangibly meaningful about a loss, you can always have some of that mental security that like there's somewhere better. And Sanjay.
She spent a summer building houses in Calcutta, where she met my dad, Sanjay.
So mom actually traveled. Critical thinking. Yeah, very structured. But not always someone who avoided things. I mean, going somewhere that far away is like, it takes a lot of initiative. Another moment.
My mom moved to India a week after graduation and got a job teaching English.
Wow, she didn't just go there, she moved there. Okay, like this is getting more complicated. It really must have been having her own kids and starting to sort of worry that
This was born a year later.
something would happen.
When my dad died, I don't think Mom knew where else to go.
Oh. I was wondering.
I'm sure
Yeah.
he was happy to have her back.
So Dad must have died elsewhere. That's why he wasn't in any of the photos here. Downstairs. And I wonder if how much Edith really got to experience life with her father either. Because it seems like she was really a kid here. Like that she grew up here, but Mom only moved back after Sanjay died. Phyllis, Milton, Edith.
And to see kids in the house again.
Okay, maybe she did have the kids already. But Edie was here all along.
The house had to get a little bigger, but Edie was used to that.
Why did Edie survive? Like, and the others
For a
didn't.
while, things were good. Almost normal.
Our family history, fact or fiction? So this was talked about, sort of. But there's so much that didn't get communicated to Edith as well. Analyze objectively, never stop learning, assume nothing, respect criticism, ask tough questions. With Mom growing up with kind of that like military ethos and structure and critical thinking, it's curious that she did not come down on this whole scenario with a ton of like rational thought about it. She came down on like the cursed side. So where did that shift happen, I wonder? Where like coming to the conclusion that we're cursed and that's why everyone dies is not a very like, that's not the scientific method. It's literally on the board. So what the heck happened?
But it didn't last.
The curse. Myth, History by Edith Finch. It's clear that Edith has always been curious about it. Oh. Mom actually was really into teaching. Okay. What the hell, man?
The beginning of the end was Milton's 10th birthday, when Edie gave him a castle.
Mom must have had some hope in the middle part of her life that she was sort of past a lot of this stuff. And it seems like some of that objectivity and rationale helped her live in that headspace. Like, helped her live, basically. Live her life. And not worry about, should I have kids, because what if they don't make it, or any of these things.
I think Edie was happy to finally have another painter in the family.
Milton, the painter.
Milton Finch in The Magic Paintbrush.
Oh. More creativity. Okay, how do I do it? God, this is so cool. Oh my God. We're going 2 layers in.
I was 4 when Milton disappeared.
Okay, so Milton's the one who vanished. We don't know what happened to Milton. The mystery continues.
Mom spent months searching for my brother. Then she sealed the doors.
So that was really the impetus for that.
Whatever Milton had found in the house, Mom didn't want it getting out.
To go from someone who's like very rational, very like scientific method, to your child suddenly vanishing, and then the only thing in your mind that explains this is like, well, we have a family lineage of people seeming to die in unexpected ways. This must have like rewired Mom's brain. Like the traumatic experience must have really rewired it and caused all kinds of compensatory behaviors, like locking up the doors, starting to avoid talking about it, doing whatever she can to protect her other kids from it. God, it's just tragic. It's tragic, the things that, like, yeah, grief without meaning. So much grief can develop someone in very unfortunate ways when it's not sort of like processed or integrated in a way that leads to healing. Like, I don't know if Dawn ever got any sense of healing
Mom
from
definitely
this.
blamed Edie, but I think Lewis blamed himself.
Why would Mom blame Edie? Would Mom blame Edie because of the, like, you seem to be the only one who's not affected by this curse?
When he
Like,
graduated, he just spent more and more time in his room. Until Mom got him a job at the cannery.
like that's got to not make a lot of sense either. To the point of frustration. Like, why is Edie 90 years old? That's odd.
Lewis's room smelled very, very familiar. That part of him lived on.
Yeah, that smell can really get burnt into the environment. Interesting. Oh. Ooh, it's like it's an SNES.
And I spent a lot of time playing games together, but he was surprisingly bad at them. He died a lot.
Or maybe it's supposed to be a Wonder Swan or something. Looks like an NES controller.
Dear Mrs. Finch, as Lewis's psychiatrist, I can understand your desire for an explanation. As I see it, the trouble began in January, shortly after we convinced your son to seek treatment for substance abuse. Newly sober, I believe Lewis first noticed the monotony of his daily life.
Oh my god. Oh my god, I hate this already.
But he withdrew part of himself.
Oh man. I don't want to do this one.
In our sessions, I saw the same behavior. His mind began to wander.
Oh. Oh, I'm controlling some sort of wizard while I'm doing the fish thing.
I asked him to describe it. He said he started small,
It's a bit confusing doing both of these things.
imagining a labyrinth. He'd feel his way about. Then something moved. Back.
So similar to what I was talking about before, right? That's the intervention the psychiatrist seems to be using. Is, yeah, if someone struggles to also understand their own internal feelings and thoughts, sometimes it's helpful to have them describe it visually, you know, to sort of allow for metaphor to help them sort of safely navigate things that are kind of abstract, like withheld feelings and whatever else.
And things that have not names. He knew it was all in his head.
It's not safe to do this, by the way, to daydream while you're got a fucking guillotine.
But he took it very seriously. I had hoped he'd find himself.
But again, my suspicion is that the metaphor of the game being it's depression. This is depressing. This is his form of escapism. It's clearly unfulfilled in his life. And for whatever it's worth, that led to some kind of distraction that had a tragic ending.
But he found something more.
Oh my god, now we're going isometric. This is so cool.
Daydreaming at the cannery,
Dangerous.
I spoke with his boss. But he said Lewis had become a model employee. Methodical, tireless, focused.
Depressed. He looks depressed, but it's probably invisible to most people.
Like a whole new Lewis.
And the smoking weed, yeah, tracks, man. You know, as a way of just sort of numbing himself from the depressive thinking.
So I let him go on. I even encouraged him. It seemed very promising at first. He told me he'd made a new friend.
The other thing that metaphor and visualization helps with is, you know, if the client doesn't feel super comfortable discussing certain things, this is a way of helping them to access their feelings and make them accessible to you as a therapist. Sort of intuiting, like, you know, what the meaning of some of these things are. Like, he met a new friend. Potentially this is like the substance that made him feel better temporarily.
On the edge of a city he named Lewis Topia. He built the city up slowly, brick by brick. Then he made musicians. And songs for them to play. He talked about starting a band. And he was always humming something. Every day his imagination grew stronger.
Until?
He no longer spoke at the cannery. But his chopping was as reliable as ever.
I don't want to... no more chopping.
But all the cheering crowds, even the stones under his feet, were all in his imagination. So he could do whatever he wished. He held an election for mayor. And he won. They begged him
Little Mario.
to stay, but his mind was already wandering. It became a game for him.
Sort of like filling out more and more of his life.
He'd conquer a city, then immediately push on. New Louisville. St. Louis. He started drifting away from our reality. Minneapolis, until one day he forgot to
Minneapolis. That's pretty good.
Even as his mother pleaded with him, part of Lewis kept sailing on.
And that's the sad thing. Like, the visuals they're helpful for understanding like what's sort of the subconscious material of someone's mind and how those things might represent what's going on in their life, but they're not a place to really live in and depend on as escapism. Internal family systems therapy is a kind of therapy where you're working with a lot of these things. And you're sort of working with different parts of a person. Like, that's the part of me that is like very stubborn and has a hard time listening. And this is the part of me that's very sensitive. And what happens when those two parts interact with one another, and what's their relationship? And you're sort of developing like the metaphorical structure of a family to discuss something very abstract, which is like, there's a part of my behavior and my mentality that when I sort of name it and give it this identity and shape it around the idea of it being a family member, I can sort of work with it easier. But it's still grounded in like, you step away from that and you live in reality. You're not escaping into like, I don't literally think that in my head is a stubborn Brady. Like, we understand implicitly and explicitly that it's sort of metaphorical, because it gives us that sort of easy working model for discussing something that's a little more abstract. But it seems like in Lewis's case, it was beyond that. This was really maybe an unhealthy form of escapism, not a form of escapism or metaphor that helped him understand his reality better, but that helped him avoid reality. Which is why I think the psychiatrist was willing to go with it at first, but stopped seeing it as beneficial. A handsome queen.
Handsome queen. The queen was on her own quest for
Sinister serpents.
sinister serpents. He followed the sound of her
Silver harp.
silver harp. His chase led him to a golden palace east of the sun and west of the moon. Even then, his logic remained sound.
Oh, now we can't see the chopper at all.
He knew the world was all in his imagination. But he was so proud of having created it. In his own eyes, he'd become something greater than a king. For someone who'd never known success in the real world, I think it was overwhelming. And then it struck him that the real Lewis was not the one chopping salmon, but the one climbing the steps of a golden palace. My imagination is as real as my body, he told me. It was hard to argue with him.
So it's very hard to argue, not in the sense that you're, shouting at each other. What she means is like to dispute the rationale of this, which is like sort of our responsibility as clinicians, right? Is to, if the person is engaging in, something like this that is causing harm in their life, whether that be like neglect of their life, neglect of their health, unhealthy escapism, whatever it is, then like it's our responsibility to try to challenge that and supply some rationale. But it's a fine line. Because you also don't want to confront it to the point that it causes them distress or harm for disputing it, because like they clearly rely on it at this point. It's very tricky. to sort of find that medium between how do you engage this person and help them step into a more healthy and functional version of whatever it is they're using to cope with the world, even if it's a sort of visualization exercise, without trying to tell them, and you need to abandon all this because it's bad for you. Like, you don't want to do that either. It's a really fine line to walk. But especially if it's going to lead to them causing harm to themselves or someone else, it does require,
Began to forget the world we
a little bit more.
I think it pained him to remember Lewis, the cannery worker.
Yeah, completely dissociated from himself.
He began to despise the man with a royal contempt.
God, it's so sad. This is so
I
much
still thought I
depression.
could save him. Even after he said he was being crowned king over all the lands of wonder. The palace would be packed with his companions.
What a beautiful depiction of something so tragic, though.
Who'd insisted on advising him.
Molly!
His queen waited, holding his crown. There was only one thing left to do. Bend down his head.
Oh my God. Oh my God, it's a chopper.
And the rest I think you know. Mrs. Finch, your son was a kind man who will be missed by all of us who knew him.
Oh my God.
My brother was really cool. I wish you could have met him.
The more of these stories that we look at, yeah, the more I feel that like depression as an experience is really what's being kind of visited here. And depression takes many forms. I think this story was probably the most like kind of classical sort of depiction of it. Sort of like dissociation from our life, sort of withdrawal, need for escapism. And, it's interesting that they said that this was a psychiatrist and not a psychologist or a therapist. Psychiatrists can provide therapy as well, but the thing that distinguishes them from psychologists is that they provide medication. And what I'm gathering is that what we're talking about here with Lewis is, the kind of chronic depression that simple talk therapy is not necessarily going to be effective by itself. There's brain chemistry involved in this, that you can see how when the brain has been, like, let's say intellectually, emotionally depressed, and we can develop anhedonia, which is this sort of inability to sort of experience like the chemical reactions of joy, but we can still experience dopamine. We can still experience fun, and the brain can sort of shift its priority to self-soothing with dopamine and substances and escapism and things that feel good in the brain but are not the same thing as like having happiness in your life. And so I imagine that there was a medical intervention involved in this to kind of help with that rebalancing of the chemical side of this, in addition to some of the psychotherapy that's probably taking place, which is sort of rehabilitating this sense of self, right? Because medications aren't going to cure that, and just rehabilitating the sense of self can't rehabilitate the neural pathways by themselves, right? And so it's sort of a dual intervention approach. There are other characters in this storyline for whom I think like therapy could have been, all that's needed. But it's complicated. Mental health is complicated, I know. An ice cold take. Sometimes an approach I found to be really effective for one person is really ineffective for someone else who has the same problem. I just look at all these people and they have similar problems. They're all dealing with grief, but every single one of them would probably need and benefit from different approaches. Sounds like Lewis was probably on some kind of antidepressant and was receiving therapy for some of that like dissociation of self. Someone like Walter, kind of needed the kind of approach that allows him to feel safe living outside of solitude. And for someone like Dawn, to me, I think it's this point about feeling responsible more than anything else for her because of how many people she was close to. Her father, Sam, who fell, and her kids, who, being a parent, she feels directly responsible for, obviously. And that burden of responsibility, that fear that I would be responsible, and so I have to do something to change the situation, I have to lock them all up, completely overrode built-in personality characteristics, all of this rational and objective reasoning that she'd built up throughout her life. That's how powerful mental health can be in a negative sense, but it can also be very powerful in a positive sense. And I think we've only got a couple more episodes of this left. We've seen almost all of those stories, and probably there's one or two left, Dawn and whatever the conclusion with Edie and Edith are. So we're going to wrap those up in the next episode. But I do hope that we're moving towards something that communicates some optimism, but one that respects the struggle that it is to overcome depression and so many other mental health things, because it's not all about depression here, but it's definitely a theme. It's a theme generationally for this family and so many families in real life. Obviously, some of these younger kids, they weren't old enough necessarily to develop such complex mental health issues, but their deaths serve as catalysts for the ongoing depression of the parents, the siblings, just the entire family system. And so, I hope we're moving towards a conclusion that is respectful of that, how difficult it is. And I trust that it will, because it's so deftly handled these subjects up until now. But one that also communicates like the fundamental optimism that I share, that just because it's hard doesn't mean it's impossible. So that's what we're going to do next time. Thank you for watching again, and I look forward to the conclusion of this with you all. Take care.